That's good.
The history of it all.
Yes.
So how are you doing this week, Dennis?
It's been a good week.
It's been a good week.
It's been a good week. Yes, lots of things have happened. Financial improvements. It's like I opened up a Chinese fucking cookie, and it said your finances are about to improve. It did. It happened.
Nice.
I feel fortunate. I'm now eligible for a small business administration, small business loan.
Very nice.
Forgivable.
Congratulations.
20K. And I'm still within 46% of what I made last year. But I digress into the world of work when in fact I'm very...
Yeah, boring.
What's happened is the trees next to me that we spoke at length about last year, dogwoods, are blooming. And so that important...
And so they smell.
I don't want to go back there. I don't want to go through all that again.
Okay. Listeners can go back approximately 52 episodes and learn what they smell like from last year. Yeah.
And I finished up the new Pope and had been thinking and anxiously awaiting where we left off at the last episode when you had many more notes. And I think that you may have been in only the first episode of the new Pope, maybe two.
I was like 2 or 3 in, and since then I've watched maybe one. Like I've fallen down on my duties.
Who danced on the end of the one you watched?
Danced on the end of the one that I watched. See, it was 5 days ago, and I can't remember. But yeah,
Sente, the cardinal dancing a swirling dervish on the balcony when he notices somebody watching him. Maybe that's the.
Damn. Yeah, I need to refresh my memory on this thing.
Then you haven't seen it then. But anyway, so what did you think? Where did you leave off last time we spoke?
See, it's been a week and I don't really remember, but I don't know. I've been busy this week because for the first time since October, my in-laws and sister-in-law have come to visit. And because like normally we see them every month, but now it's been like 4 or 5 months. And
are they in the apartment across the way?
They're occupying the apartments, yes. So it's been busy and hectic and fun and good. My kids have been much more likely to hug and cuddle with them now that it's been so long. Like they notice that the kids won't say, "Hey, I missed you," but they will hug them for slightly longer, which is enough.
Yeah, that's sweet. That's sweet.
But I do have some family news that I don't know how much we talked about it, but 6 months ago or so, my son started to develop like this double vision problem. And we noticed that when he was watching TV from the couch, he would put his chin down to his chest to look over his brow towards the TV. And he said that made things better to see. And of course we got worried, as parents do. And we took him to the eye doctor, and the eye doctor had him look at a bunch of things and said, "This is super weird. I've never seen anything like this develop that wasn't permanent, like that wasn't from the very beginning." And they were all confused, and they referred us to some other doctors that were further away, and we went there. This was all within the public healthcare system. And they said, "Yeah, this is super weird. Probably he has like some problem with the muscles that control the movement of the eyeballs. And there's an operation that we could perform." And yeah, exactly. That's super scary. And so we wanted a second opinion. And so we found a private doctor in another nearby city. And we took him there, and they did all the tests and charged us for it. And they said, "Yeah, you could do surgery, or there's this procedure where you can inject some Botox into those muscles." And Botox is like a paralyzer of the muscles. And that maybe when they are paralyzed, the other muscles will learn to do the right thing, and then it'll be fixed. That's a possibility. That is not surgery, not really surgery. It's an injection. And we had the option of either paying to have this injection done privately or go with the public thing. And so we talked to his pediatrician, and she said that yes, the Botox makes a lot of sense. It's a good, it might not fix it because it wears off, but at least it's a good thing to try first before attempting surgery. And so we chose to do that. And so in order to get that done, so he had the Botox thing the day after we recorded last, I think. But before that, he had to get in English, do you say a PCR for a test for COVID? Is PCR a thing that you say for COVID test? No, that's a thing. I don't know. It's probably like RPC or whatever in English. I don't know. But he had to have proof of a negative COVID test. And none of us in our family have had a COVID test, but so we had to take him to, again, a place that's a 35-minute drive away to get a COVID test. And we got there, and you know what that feels like. And he was like, we sort of told him, look, it's going to be uncomfortable. And he was like, okay, it's not. He knew that he didn't really have an option. But they did. It was pretty good. It was a special pediatric COVID testing place, and they had this sort of like dentist chair where the mother lies down on the chair with the child on top of her and holds his arms so he can't like grab at his face. And then they do the thing for. They said it was going to be 5 seconds, but I wasn't in the room, but I was standing outside a window and I could basically see everything that was going on in there. And for about 2 seconds. And of course he was uncomfortable and then was like sneezing and stuff when he came out and said that it sucked and it hurt for another 30 minutes or whatever. And of course, 24 hours later, we got the result that it was negative, which we knew, but we had to have that proof in order to go into the other place. We decided that that was a Sunday that we had that test done. But we decided that because it was so far away and it was early in the morning, we decided to all go there and then spend Sunday out exploring in some town somewhere.
With your son?
All four of us.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And so we found this nature museum. What was what it was called. And it was pretty cool. It was a bunch of taxidermied animals, basically, mostly birds, which is always fun. The ones that aren't birds are extra creepy because if they get the curl of the fox's lips wrong, it looks super weird. But it was fun to walk around and see these birds up close because you never get to see like a hawk that up close. But so here you could get up
it's amazing.
And see just the detail.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so we went to this museum and it was pretty cool. But it was also in this little sort of everything built out of stone village out in the middle of the countryside. And between when we got out of the museum and lunchtime, we decided to walk around for a bit. And first we were just gonna have a drink and use the bathroom at this restaurant, but it looked like a really nice restaurant, and so we said this place looks pretty nice, and so we reserved a table for 2 hours in the future, and then went for a walk around this little town, which is pretty cool.
And how old was this town that was made of stone?
It could be anywhere between 200 and 2,000 years. I don't know. Really? There's a lot of Roman stuff around this area.
Meaning they won't stay put, or what?
Yeah, meaning that
moves from place to place.
They speak Latin. Yes.
I have to call this the background episode. We have many people in our shadows here. People coming and going, wives, grandchildren. I'm waiting for my son-in-law to come up and say, "Hey, how you doing?" So it sounds cool. Sounds way cool.
But then it turns out this restaurant was fucking fantastic. We had this gorgeous huge steak, and they brought out these Himalayan salts to put on the steak, including a black salt.
No kidding.
That is a special kind of Himalayan salt that apparently they use in like Indian cooking, but it was super cool looking. And so my wife and I had that, and the kids had a squid with some like garlic sauce that was like made from black garlic as well, which is super interesting. Anyway, it was a lovely meal.
Yeah.
But then we went. The wine was fucking great. But then after that, my kids had whiskey. Yes.
I mean, you had a steak, or did you all eat the steak?
No, my wife and I had a steak and a lovely salad, and the kids had chorizo with fries, basically, and a grilled squid, which was excellent as well. I had one bite.
And the kids liked that.
The kids loved that. Yeah. And then we continued that lovely day by going on this walk down by a river, and
What's the town? What's the river?
I don't remember, and nor would any person listening have heard of it.
But they might want to look it up on a map. There's listeners from all over the world. They want to know.
Okay, I'll put it in the show notes at happyhour.fm/104. Everyone go there. I'll put a link.
I'll go there. In droves.
Yes.
In droves.
But it was super cool. It was just a perfect day with the family. The kids weren't asking for iPads or Nintendos or anything. It was just, we were all together and present in the day, and it was lovely. But we went down to this river, and man, rivers sure are special. Like, you can't sit by a river and not think just philosophical thoughts. Like, it forces you into this, wow, everything's changing all the time. You can't not think that.
The other world of rivers.
There's this famous quote, I think by Descartes, where he said, no man can step in the same river twice, because neither is it the same river nor is it the same man. Which
and so where you sat by it and,
we sat by
waxed philosophic.
What kind
of things did you say that would alert everyone around you that you'd become philosophical? Did you say, for example?
My children had just the time of their lives chucking the biggest possible rocks they possibly could into the river, because that's the purest childhood fun. Like, they were spending so much energy to lift weights. They spent an hour just picking up the biggest weights they could and throwing them, and then immediately saying another one, and that was lovely.
How old are they again?
Now they are 12 and 7. They're about to be 12 and 8.
That's fun.
But what I discovered, a thing that I had never done before, was I was sitting there by the river, and I started trying to stack river rocks. Have you ever tried that?
Yes.
And it's very...
there's hardly a time when I don't do it somewhere. And I'm on a lot of rivers because I fish the rivers, and I always have. But I also use the rocks to make furniture, so that when I need a break from fishing against the log, there's big slaty stones that I have a back and something to sit on. So
these were all rounded rocks that had been had a millennia of rocks of water run over them.
A millennia. That's not a real word.
Millennium.
Excuse me. You my story about my brother.
But it was super interesting to me that when you're doing that, when you're trying to stack 3 or 4 of these rocks on top of each other, it takes all of your concentration. There's a reason that the Zen Buddha culture has this thing of stacking rocks, because you have to be in the moment entirely. You can't be thinking about your taxes. You can't be thinking about the next podcast you're going to record. You have to be just there, concentrating. And
in this room, I have 1, 2, 3 different balancing rocks. 2 of them in disarray right now because they fell from the vibrations of the...
What a metaphor for your life. Am I right? You're out of balance, Dennis. That's what I'm saying.
So it's been a week, right, since we talked, and I told you about the truck I wanted to see. I told you about this, right?
Yes, we left off that you were...
No, still no truck. Still no truck. I called the guy up. I says, hey, John. He says, yeah. I said, look, when this truck is in service and they brag on 116 points of review to get the service on the truck done, and then when they give it to you, they give a 7,500 mile or 3 months warranty on a used vehicle.
Okay.
And so they're primo, but it's still in the service. And so I've got to go pick up my sports car we're having our anniversary trip. Yes. Question? Yes. You in the front.
If you could not do that pant leg rubbing thing, that'd be good. Just saying.
Well,
we can hear that.
I didn't know I was doing. I guess I was enjoying myself a little too much. Just waggling my knees a little bit. These pants are rather loud.
Yes.
They're the most comfortable pants I've ever wore. I have 2 pairs of them. They are both comfortable and very stretchy. And so they're a new fabric that I've never, ever worn before, these pants. It seems to me to be the quintessential invention in a pant cloth because of its dexterity, washability, wrinkle freeness, stretchability. They fit.
It's a little on the noisy side, but apart from that, there's room for improvement. Let's just say.
Right. Consumer Reports. What would they say?
They're not approved for ninjas.
What would they say? I got a new chair for my office. It's very comfortable, but it's higher around my desks. So I had to elevate my typing by 4.5 inches. So now it has a wooden antique wooden writing box underneath it. I talked about this when we opened it up, and I said it was the world's first computer.
Right.
Because you open up the thing and like a laptop, blah, 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 pencil and paper. And then a sheaf of printing paper. I got to rethink it. Either I got to raise all the furniture up so that it works for this chair, or I got to get a lower chair. But I love this chair. I'm on the horns of a dilemma here.
Yes.
With me? Can you help me in any
I understand.
way? Could you create a checklist for me?
You need to
interview me and let's come to a conclusion. Let's rubber duck this.
Good, Rick. Good memory. So you're higher than you've ever been.
In this room, yes.
And
it's qualified, yes.
Your desk is now too low, and you love your chair. So
yes,
either
$90 chair.
Either we can sink your chair into a little well in the floor.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And leave everything else the way it is.
Get the buzzsaw up here. Should I use a chainsaw and just go right through the carpet and the wood?
Yeah.
To hell with the rafters. We'll drop it. We'll drop it.
Hey,
that's a good one.
We're throwing shit up on the whiteboard now, okay?
Right.
No idea is a bad idea.
No, I don't know. We need another idea. Let's just do that.
Or we raise everything in the room by 4 inches. The pictures on the wall, the lamps, everything.
All the furniture. So what we do is we would buy 4x4 pieces of lumber, each 3 foot long.
Or hold on,
stack all the furniture on them. so that it looked like I imagined Venice to look.
True. It'd be great if you ever had a flood in your office.
Wow.
But
look forward to that.
Also, rather than sink your chair, you could raise the floor everywhere else. In this way, it would look like you sunk your chair. You'd have to step up to get into the room.
That chainsaw cut handy. Just cut all the way around. But the thing is, if you cut all the way around, the floor would fall out into the floor below you.
No. You're raising your floor. You're raising the floor everywhere except for the...
In order to raise it, you have to cut it. And if you're standing in the room cutting it, when you get all the way around the outside, you'll fall into the floor below you.
Well, might need a ladder. Let's see.
You have to put supports there. You'd put the floor here on joists, on jacks, twist it up only so high, with a lot of room for twisting. There's probably 3 per wall, so 3, 6, 9, 12 jacks. And you tighten the jacks up underneath the rafters of the floor below, which is your floor rafters here. And then you'd cut, and it would go, thump, and it would drop 1/8 of an inch, a little crack plaster. And then with that done, you would raise the jacks, twist them up all in order. It'd take 4 men, not 4. Yeah, 4, because you do the 4 corners and then you go to the 4 corners, then do the other 2, 4, 6, 8, right? Jacks. So that's how you would do that. So let's do that one.
And the benefit of with either of these things where you end up with your chair in a little indention is you can, when you move back and forth, you can do the skateboarders do on the half things.
Yeah,
so
I'm on wheels.
Exactly. You slide over too far, you're going to end up turning to the side, and then you're going to be pushed back, and then you can like do tricks and ollies and shit.
And ollies. Oh man.
This reminds me of the most crazy thing I learned recently. And so apparently in Indianapolis, when was this? Hold on, let me do a little bit of research here. So in Indianapolis, the Indiana Bell, it was like a 7-story office building for the Ma Bell folks. And they decided that they needed to expand. And let's see if I can describe this. There will be a really cool YouTube video in the show notes at happy.fm/104. They decided that they needed to expand their building, and they were trying to figure out how. And someone noticed that they could take their existing building, and if they could, on the lot of the block that they were in, if they could rotate that building in such a way at a particular pivot point, it could go into the corner of the lot, and then they would have this extra space to build another building. Just turn it. But it's like
long side. So long side would go.
It would turn 90 degrees, but not pivoting from the center, but from some other point. Right. And so they came up with this idea, and this idea that you were just talking about of raising the floor reminded me of this. The architect that designed this was Kurt Vonnegut's father.
Whoa!
And this was in 1929, we'll say, was when this happened, and they figured out a way to raise this building by 3 inches and put in stuff to pivot it around. And they were moving it, I think it was like 15 inches per hour. It took them to move this thing. But the crazy thing...
3 inches.
Maybe 3 inches per hour. I don't know. It was some...
that is reasonable if you're doing it across the board. We raised this house.
No, but it was... Right. So they raised it, and then they had these men turning these cranks that would pivot, they would move it a little bit, and then they would make sure everything was okay, and then they would turn the crank again and move it a little bit further. And they did this over the course of several days, obviously it took, but they did it with everyone still reporting to work. Everyone was still in the building. There was no loss of electricity or sewage or anything. They built this thing that came out of the entrance of the building to this walkway so that as the building moved, you would end up at a different part of the walkway so you could come in and out of the building. And they engineered this thing. And there's this video online that shows how they moved this building in this way with no break of any services. People were still reporting into work. They were still going there, and they were still using the bathroom, and they were still everything was. Yeah.
How big of a building was it? How many square feet? Something like that.
It was like 7 stories by, I don't know how.
25 by 25. That kind of was small.
No,
number.
wider than that.
50.
I'd say more like 100 by 100.
Oh, that's big.
Yeah, it's a big fucking
building.
Big.
That's big. And so they had jacks that raised that also swiveled.
They had this thing where every time they turned, it would go onto another roller, and they would have to take the other roller from the other side and walk it around and put it in the new spot, and then do another twist, and then it would move on to the next roller, and they would take.
So they lifted while they twisted.
Yes, first they lifted, and then they put all the rollers underneath, and then they.
Tell me there ain't a rock and roll song in there.
I know, man. Indiana
First
Bell.
They lifted, then they twisted.
Yeah, but so. And it was totally a success. And then they built the other building in the now vacant area. And the building that they twisted lasted for another 60, 70 years before it got demolished and replaced with something else. But
just upgraded.
I'll send you the
fascinating. Kurt Vonnegut's father.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
That is wild.
And just
that is wild.
I love those stories. There's another one about how they moved Chicago, how they reversed the river flow in Chicago. Which is pretty wild. That I don't remember all the details about, but that's another.
Well, I told you my time on the Alaskan River, where there was an island that had occurred in the middle of the river, and as we were floating, 1, 2, 3, 4 of us in this boat with a high bow, big boat, 16 feet, real high front bow, a boat that moves with an engine on the back that you need to go upriver, and as we were.
Was it high bow and also high brow? Was it like a rich people's boat?
Oh, it was a fisherman's boat, but it wasn't a cheap boat.
Okay.
And it cost $400 to do it, which was money well spent. Okay. But when you were going down this river very fast and fishing for salmon that were right off the boat and catching them, we came upon this island. And when we got to the head of the island, there was a churning part of the water where the fish were attracted because the churning water was creating oxygen, and there was a deep hole there, so it was more to their temperature. They didn't have to fight the current so much. But we realized in a moment that the water around the island was moving upstream, and that when the river water hit the island, the centrifugal force of the water around the right side of the island forced water to come around going against the grain. So when we went to the downside of the island, we could drift upstream. If we kept close to the island. And that's where I caught the 2 biggest rainbow trout I've ever seen in my life. That just, oh my God, one after another. On the bow of the boat and standing with another fisherman holding my legs, because the 9-foot pole and the 9 foot of line that was out was all I could do to stand up on the bow of the boat and hold it up out of the water so that I could get the fish near the net. But anyway, that you speaking about your river and you sitting there in philosophical, you never did say an example of one of the philosophical things that you retorted when your wife realized, you know what, he's being philosophical. What?
Either he's stupid or he's deep in thought. Was her thought, I'm sure. No, I mean, just, time, flows by, and like, what is, like, we were having the perfect day as a family, and I find it very important to reflect, to cherish those days, because I know that they are finite in number.
They're fleeting.
And that, so, like, my wife and I spent most of that day just smiling at each other, like, what a lovely day this is. And so it was just a good thing.
Yeah, it sounds like a wonderful day. And then your son's treatment proved to be quite wonderful.
That was 3 days later. That was the day after we recorded, I think, or the day that we recorded, one or the other. Yeah. So we took him into the big city, and he for this he had to be under general anesthetic. I've never been under general anesthetic.
Another moment.
Yes, exactly. That's super scary, of course.
Because it's scary, and at the same time, it has to be scary. That's just.
Yes. How many times have you been under general
Patton
anesthetic?
Oh,
he was another good general in the.
Yes. Did he report to Major?
Nice.
He was in a general hospital. Let's see. When they put my ankle, which had been pulled away from my body by a speeding motorcycle, when they moved it, I was out, and they took it from the U position, which it was all night, and straightened it, and all broken bones all the way around. That was out. Position. Another one was when I had my 2, you like this, manipulation under anesthesia, MUA. So I had a frozen shoulder, which meant that when I heard it standing up one day doing carpentry outside, and I was creating a little roof over the top of my meters, my water meters, so that they were kept out. And I made a little roof, and I was down on my knees pounding something and picking something up. And when I stood up, I ran my right shoulder into the 2x4 that was sticking up right at just below shoulder length. And I got up so quickly because at my age, when I finally got the momentum to get up, I'm spring because the moment is fleeting. And so that hurt, and I stopped swimming, and then I started using it less until I couldn't use it anymore. If you don't use it, you lose it. And so when I went in, he put me under general anesthesia, plus they found it through ultrasound. They found the place on my chest, my right part of my chest, where all of the nerves from the shoulder congregated and meshed in some type of a synoptic truck rest or crossroads for all the synapses.
Synaptic
and that's where
truck rest?
That's
the title.
That's where they put the needle to kill it. So it killed my whole right shoulder, everything down below my arm. It was like swinging a freaking 6-pound sleeve of bologna.
Of sand. Yeah.
No, not that heavy. Bologna.
Yeah.
And I wonder when I get they had to remove polyps. I have pictures of my polyps in my file.
Those will not be in the show notes.
Hey, come on, man. There's people that want to see this shit. There is. We got like 16 listeners. At least 3 or 4 of them want to see these polyps. Hey, did that guy call you? Who said that he wanted to be on the show?
No, he hasn't yet.
Did he write you?
No.
Well,
he gave up. But the whole, like, as far as I know, we understand, like, anesthesiologists understand the right dosage, and they understand what the result is with this amount of dosage for this sort of person. But as far as I know, we don't really understand what happens neurologically under general anesthesia, because it's basically just lights fucking off. It's
not exactly sure.
There's no dreaming.
We just happen to know how.
Exactly. There's no dreaming. It's just for the conscious self, time stops and then it starts again. And that's super creepy. But anyway, so I was sitting out in the waiting room when they were doing the operation. My wife couldn't be in there either, obviously. And then they came out and they said everything after 30 minutes or 20 minutes. They came out and said everything went fine. And then she got to be in there while he woke up. And it took him like 2.5 hours to wake up. Like, he was just fucking out. And he kept coming into consciousness and being like, I can't wake up, and then going back again. And
interesting enough, I never got a general when they operated on my wrist. That was all just deadening of my arm.
Right. Which seems fine.
Working. No, it wasn't fine. It wasn't fine at all. My arm was the arm of a cadaver. It was blue. No, it was not good. You can't just brush that off and say, no, that's good. No.
Are you referring to episode 2 of the Happy Hour podcast? Where
is that true?
It was the second fucking episode. Yes, but then he was like nauseous and just sick for the rest of the day. On the 40 hour felt like it, on the 40-minute car ride home, having eaten nothing in 24 hours, he vomited 4 times and was just miserable and bad.
That's sad.
And then the next day he was also
stalwart. Stalwart young man.
The next day he also like wanted to just lie still rather than play video games. But then the following day he was as good as new. And then it took 3 or 4 days before he started saying that it feels like my eyeball is being squished. Which apparently is what was supposed to
happen. When you put Botox in, your lip gets bigger.
So the muscles around his eye were squishing his eyeball. And as it turned out, just out of sheer luck, the week of the operation, we got a call from the public doctor to come in and have another look at him. And I explained to the public doctor, look, yes.
We did the Botox. Yeah.
No, we're about to do the Botox is what I said. But yes, like 5 days after the Botox, we will come in and you can see it.
Good move.
Just and
private to public.
By sheer luck. And so we went into the public eye, and although my son's eye one of his eyes was droopy and he was complaining of a slight squishing, it wasn't painful, but he said, I can feel. The eye doctor that saw him said, he's way better than he was before. You totally did the right thing in doing this Botox rather than surgery.
Yeah, and then if it doesn't stick if
it doesn't stick, then we can do whatever. It was so...
And now we know exactly what it is.
Right, not really. Like, he called in a couple other colleagues, and they were like, we've never seen anything like this particular case.
They didn't know why. They just knew how to.
Exactly. Much.
That's like medicine. That's what medicine's like.
That's what medicine is. And it's a lot like what a lot of times I can, in my work, I will fix a bug in a program and not entirely understand why it was acting up in the first place, but know that think that I fixed it. But that's just life.
Yeah.
But anyway, so generally good news on the family health front.
Yes. That's great. And your little visit to the town that you can't remember on the river, you can't remember the name either, but you're going to post it on the notes.
Yes.
It goes from
the mountains to the ocean.
It sounds just fabulous. And the temperature that day was what?
It was pretty chilly. I had my winter coat on, and the water was of course cold. But today the temperature was in Fahrenheit 84.
Oh.
Unbelievable and crazy.
You're out there. You're on your balcony.
I was on my balcony. I went for a walk in my short sleeves. Today was the first day of wearing shorts this year. And it was.
I can hardly wait to see all those pale legs.
Yes. My legs have never looked as fantastic. There will be detailed photos.
Evaluation's not the safest bet.
Yeah. From my point of view, the thigh is is in front of the knee.
Oh man.
So your truck is.
They haven't called. I called them up. I said, "Hey, John, man, this truck's taking a long time. Hey, do I have first refusal on this truck?" And he said, "Do you have what? First refusal. Am I the first one that, if I want it, I got it? And am I the one?" He said, "Oh yeah, you're the first person on the list. You're the first person I'm calling." I said, "All right, well, I won't bother you again until I hear from it." He said, "Let me get the service guys on the phone." Calls him. He says, "That'll be done by the end of the week."
Uh-huh.
So at the end of the week, I got to pick up my sports car. My wife and I are going on our first post-inoculation trip.
Yes.
One of the safest hotel chains on the.
Yes.
You mentioned that last week. In a little town, yes.
Where they make good hamburgers.
Best pizza. Best pizza. And nice dunes within 6 miles, and then a beach in 10 miles. We're looking for that. But then pick up my sports car on the way back. Now, if this works out strangely, let's check on this next time we speak.
So your escape is coming up in the
coast here, 2 hours to the west.
It hasn't happened yet. It's going to happen in the future.
It's coming up this coming weekend.
Excellent. So,
and
tune in next week.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But here's the thing about my truck, what you asked about. Mm-hmm. What would happen if, when I went to pick up my car in the warehouse,
someone had painted it black?
or green. So green truck. What a freaking moron. I tried to find you the picture of the green truck in the file. I couldn't. I laid my hands on it the other day. It's funny, as you said, as the mind rolls with stuff. But anyway, get the car out of hock and drive the car to the next city where the truck is. Leave the sports car parked inside somewhere because the roof leaks.
Convertibles, am I right?
And then drive the truck home and test drive it.
Yeah.
That's the story.
That's the story. That's what you did?
How about if that happens? Wouldn't that be cool?
Oh, no, that's what you're going to do.
I don't know. Maybe. Wouldn't it be fortunate?
That's your plan.
Not a plan. No. Not a plan.
Premonition.
No.
I'm seeing it right now.
Yes. That's not a premonition. Well, for me, you're premoniting. You're premoniting my stuff?
Premoniting? Yes, that would be great. So your old truck that got painted black, and they gave back to you as well as some money.
Yes.
That is sitting where?
My son's. He's driving it to work every day.
Even though it's painted horribly?
Hey, there's a lot of ugly trucks out there. And frankly, there are more trucks out there that are spray painted with spray paint than America would care to admit to. So
Amen.
The fact of the matter is that it was gray, and now it's got a bad spray paint job. You know what I want to do with it? I want to hook up my spray painter, which I use for outdoor work. I haven't used it inside, but I bought it for $78. And you put a screw container on the bottom of it full of paint, and it's an air gun that is driven by electric power, and you have a nozzle on it, and you keep it about 18 inches from your surface, and you can walk right across and do a barn, and then do a coat the other way. And so that's what I'll use.
I'm telling you, man, it on the side of the truck, it needs to say happyhour.fm.
Oh, hey. How much would you pay me from the corporate coffer?
I will dig deep in the corporate coffer.
Is that guy still sending us money?
We have so much money. We don't know what to do with it. This money we're referring to is at patreon.com/happyhour. That you can come and support us. I would pay for the spray paint. I'm not paying for your labor. That's on you. And your handwriting, if you know someone that can write better than you with spray paint, then by all means do it.
Before I would spray paint it, I would use the power hose on it and knock as much of that spray paint off as possible, because it wasn't even like metal paint. It's like what you'd use to paint the bottom of a cabinet or something you'd keep indoors. And so when you rub your hand on it, it kind of flakes around the edges, right? But here's the thing: is that,
or do you go with a stencil? Because a lot of spray painting of letters involves stencils.
Hey,
right?
It's already got black spray paint. Let's do the camouflage. All you do is add brown, gray, a couple different shades of brown, gray.
It's already green under there somewhere.
But there's one. That's funny.
There's the memory of green under there.
What is green? What is green? Cap that goes on the back of the truck.
What is that?
Fiberglass. It's stored, so to speak, underneath some trees that probably.
The thing that covers the back.
Yeah. With a window in the back, so that when you open your tailgate, there's also a window that you have to open.
Right.
And it connects to the back of the truck with a vise, like a gripper. Vise. Whoosh, 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 turning it.
That makes more sense with the noise.
If you can imagine moving that house, you can imagine getting a cab of this truck attached. You lay down a rubber mat, like a gasket. Mm-hmm. That's about 3 inches wide all the way around, and you set it on that. And if it's clean and you glue that shit on there, and then you put it on, it's good to treat it like it's permanent.
Nice.
And because if it's not permanent, then you could have the option of maybe it coming off when you didn't want it to. That wouldn't be good.
No, you generally want your cap to stay on the bottle.
So one time I took a trip followed up a river in Oregon, and I had a life raft that I was going to go down the river. And when I was hitchhiked with this life raft, which was full, I got picked up by a pickup truck. And when I said, how do I do this? So I put the life raft between me and the cab of the truck, standing in the back of the truck, so that there was the cab of the truck, the mattress, then me, and I held on to the top of the wall.
Ooh.
And at one point I was vertical.
I was going to say, that feels like, how did you survive?
I was vertical. And what an amazing thing it would have been if I would have let go, right? And blew off the back of the truck, which would be on top of the mattress. I wouldn't be under the mattress. If I was holding the mattress and me and the mattress blew off, wouldn't I hit the bottom of the mattress and then flip over? So I would be laying on top of it? Let's hope so.
I mean, it's a little bit like Aladdin and the flying carpet.
Yes.
Right?
Aladdin and the flying...
You would have been Dennis and the flying mattress.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was thinking of that the other night, and I thought, why do I remember that so much more than I remember the trip down the river? And I thought of all the times I've reminisced about that hike up that winding riverside, somebody climbing up escarpment steep. And then I started piecing together what the ride was like down. And I recall that in many places the water was too shallow, and there were only several places, but several, where it was a little bit of a yee-haw, because it wasn't nearly as steep as the other. I told you the story of the one that broke the oars and that suicide attempt up in Washington State. That was nuts. This was very mild. And when I got to the ocean, it was so big, the river opened up so huge,
as they do,
into the ocean, that it was with my oar, that was quite difficult physically to get out of that big water
and not end up
and get over to the shore.
Right. Not end up in the middle of.
And then I walked back to the boat and strapped the lifeboat back on the beam of the ship that I was on, and that was it. But I bet it was funny that after all these years, that's been, I don't know, let's say 45 years ago, 46, 50.
Uh-huh.
50 years ago. Yeah, back in the day. Hey, so how are we hearing about old Tiger Woods doing? We haven't seen any news. He's just home recovering now, and
I've
everyone
not heard
knows.
a peep of nothing.
No, nor a peep was.
If anyone is good at staying the hell away from the media, it's Tiger. He only ends up in the tabloids when he fucks up and the authorities get involved.
Oh, sexually, for example.
Yeah, for example. But because he got so famous so early, so quickly, knows.
Did you see the documentary? I'm sorry, I talked over you. Did you see the documentary?
I Forgive You, and what document? No, what?
Tiger Woods.
No, I've heard a podcast about him.
Oh no, this is a film.
No.
It's not, I don't know, is it 2 parts or long? I think maybe it's, I don't know, I can't remember, but I thought maybe it was in 2 parts. It was great. It was mind-bending. It was eye-opening.
He's certainly a special human.
About his father and his dad's sexual escapades. And what it was like to be around his dad when he was having women in the trailer. Where
I didn't know about this.
Oh, yeah. And the golf pro who was interviewed, when he was asked this question, he looked at the camera, then he looked down at his hands, and he said, oh, man. He didn't look at the camera. He looked down at his hands, and he said, oh, man, Earl ain't going to like this. And then he looked up at the camera, and he said, yeah, there were women nonstop. And he covered for him for all of the upbringing. And that explained the special bond that Tiger had with his mom to a large degree.
Oof.
And also his sex addiction, very interesting, psychological, if dare I say, DNA-esque twist. But unknown to me.
I wonder if extraordinary individuals more often than not have traumatic childhoods in that way. Or if there are...
I don't know.
Or if there are amazing... What's the tennis star that's super nice? The Swiss guy.
Boris?
No. Roger Federer. I wonder how his childhood was. And to be the best of something, you have to have had an abnormal childhood. Like, you can't have grown up just being a B student through middle school and then in high school decided that you really liked to do a thing.
Would have showed itself. Something had showed itself earlier.
Right. But one wonders if, because with your Tiger explanation, there's a lot of fault or blame or something that could be placed on his parents or his father in that story. But I wonder if you could raise a child in a loving, everything's okay, it's okay if you fail away, and then have that child be the best at something, is my wonder. Because obviously that's what I'm attempting to do with my kids. But
right. It's remarkable what has happened to us all over the world and how it's changing our lives and our appreciation for being safe and less worried. And did you see the Birx interview, the Birx and Fauci and what's his name, Redwine, who was the director of CDC? I may have his name wrong, but they each said how Trump had tried to mess with the science so seriously that Biden's starting an investigation of how he duped the American people. And Dr. Birx said, after the first 100,000 people died, if we had applied what we learned after those first 100 deaths and simply done what the science said, we would have avoided the next 300,000 deaths. And around the world, people are saying, you fucking whore.
Yeah.
Why didn't you quit and publish that then and there? Why didn't you write a letter to the Congress and go full pursuit here? You're telling us now, Fauci at least obviously skirted the bridge, and one could argue, as Fauci could, I think, hey, I had to do everything I could to stay there, and I think I was totally honest, but these others, not so much. And it just, and I had said before that he's guilty of war crimes. What about Birx?
Yeah.
How is she different? Sitting there and, the best we get from you is a blank look as you're sitting against the wall, listen to this fucking maniac say this crazy shit about fucking drinking bleach and fucking swallowing light. And the best you can do for the American people is look blank. That's it.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
That's a situation.
I was fighting the fight inside. Bullshit.
No, but it's hard to say what each of us would have done in that situation. I don't think that everyone that was in, and here we go to the extreme, Godwin's law. I don't think that everyone that worked in the Nazi death camps was necessarily evil, but they were weak. They were weak in a way that we all can be sometimes, in not standing up to what they clearly feel is wrong. And we all have these moments where I see that what my boss is doing is wrong, but if I say anything about it, then something terrible will happen to me, and so I'm going to keep quiet at the moment. And again, you can weigh the numbers after we know the actual cost is one thing, but at the time, when you're making those decisions, you don't really know the cost, and I think it's difficult. I have trouble condemning people that don't whistle blow because I can't be certain that I would be brave enough to do it myself. That's my position.
Yeah, I've been somewhat tested on that, but that's for offline. So the weather here is warming up. Places are starting to open.
How about that March Madness?
Oh, they showed the Michigan UCLA game at 11 o'clock Eastern time, which there's some explanation of that, but there's no way that I could wait up that long. When I woke up to pass some water, it was quarter to 1. And I looked and my eyes couldn't focus on my phone and my glasses. And I saw the score was 49-51 UCLA. And I saw on the side on my little tiny phone that it said half. I thought it said half. And it didn't say half. Of course, it would have said halftime, but it didn't say half. It said final. Michigan lost by 2. So you knew this, right?
50. The final score was 50-something to 40?
51 to 49.
Isn't that low scoring?
Yes. Defense, both sides.
Wow.
Lots of trouble. But lost by 2. But I wanted to see a rebroadcast of it because I missed it. Of course, it was too late, which is fucked up that the people in Michigan had to. Anyway.
Now you spoiled it for us, so I'm not going to watch it.
That? No.
Now that I know the result.
It's not. I was
gonna, but.
Well, you missed it.
Yeah.
It's over. What do you mean you're not going to watch it? It's already over. It was yesterday.
You were just saying that you wanted to watch it, but.
Oh, no, I want to watch a replay.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. I want to see a replay of this. Oh, okay. I thought it was funny. Doesn't need to be.
Let's do a replay of that conversation. Yes.
I'd like to see a transcript. That'll show you what's what.
A transcript.
Do you think we could sell transcripts of the podcast?
Those are going in our book that we're publishing at the end of episode 400.
102 steps on the highway to hell.
Yeah. The thing is, though, the transcript doesn't. It's a computer generated transcript, and it doesn't work that well. Like sometimes, I can't think of an example right now, but sometimes you will say something and it gets it totally wrong. It gets me wrong too. It's not just about you.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine. So it was cool again today. Cool again. It was 60. It was like a teaser. And I'm yet to get out there with my, I'm breaking out my gardening tools. And I'm going to ready the yard for the spring. A little churning, a little turning of soil, a little mulching hither and thither, a little repair work. I planted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I planted trees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 trees. And planted. Well, they're twigs. They're just. I have to have a.
They're future trees.
Piece of bamboo. They're trees.
Yeah. But yeah,
they're trees. They're early trees. Which reminds me, I'm going to make sure that you understand a book you need to read called The Overstory. Speaking of trees. And it is Pulitzer Prize winning novel by the student himself. And I'm absolutely blown away by it, and I want you to read it, and we should talk about it. I do like a book, and you're frozen on the screen, by the way, but I can hear your sound.
Yeah, you just were, because I'm like a deer in the headlights of your dulcet tones. Overstory. Yeah, you mentioned that it's by the man called Ovid or whatever guy. No, shit.
No, that was another one. What was that one? Oh, hey, are you going to watch Beartown?
Hopefully, eventually.
Yeah, it was good. It's over. It was quick. It was only 5 episodes.
That makes me more likely to want to watch it.
I'm now in the. And are you gonna start the Boardwalk Empire?
Are you going to start Breaking Bad? Or I'm not planning on it. Like I don't have.
You seem to be.
I don't have 4 hours every day of free time to just let me sit on the sofa.
What I have is a sleeping 4-month-old on my chest for usually 1 hour increments 3 times a day. And now that the weather's warmer, one of those hour increments I'm walking in her carriage that I push around, her stroller. But that's when I have time. And before I go to bed, I'll watch an episode. But anyway, I'm once again running out of options. I got a serious. My wife wants these boys, these IT boys from our Geek Squad, to come and help her with her TV upstairs. So I'm going to take advantage of that schedule and get these guys to turn my shit into Roku, man. Just going the full Roku, right? Netflix, HBO, Showtime, just stream it.
What's wild is that one of the reasons that Netflix is so popular is that they have managed to get their software onto every possible device outlet that plays video. So all the smart TVs, all the video game consoles, all the cable boxes that the local cable companies give you, they all support Netflix. Yeah. So it's bizarre that you don't have it, but yes, you should definitely
listen. If it took 100 episodes to watch Moonstruck, I'm allowed quite a bit of space to go full switcheroo on the IT shit. So you got to give me a break.
I will give you a break.
There you
But then we have to watch Black Mirror together. That's so good.
And yes.
Before Breaking Bad.
Well, that would be the plan. That would be the plan. I have 2 questions for you.
Okay. Give me the second one first.
Are you lifted? And are you twisted?
I think you need to lower your chair, lower the floor underneath your chair, and then move your desk around 180 degrees so you're facing the other direction.
I know. I wouldn't have this problem if instead of having the chair on the floor, it was on the wall.
Or the ceiling.
So I would... no, the wall. You'd fall out of the chair in the ceiling. You ignorant.
You don't fall off the wall.
No. You have your chair positioned so the back is facing the floor. And you have a strap.
You can strap yourself to the chair on the ceiling, too.
No, that would require 2 straps.
Think of all the blood that would flow to your...
That would require us.
And the clever things you would say on the podcast.
Hey.
All that blood in your head.
You keep avoiding the question of the night, and I won't let
What's the question?
You were sitting on the shore of the river.
Yeah.
You were feeling philosophical, and at one point, you said something, and it was when your wife said, "Oh my." She turned her head at you like sort of a little terrier hearing a strange whistle, and she turned her head and she said, "Oh, listen to that. Erik is being philosophical." What did you say?
I said that it's interesting that time flows so quickly that we can never really get to... So I really hung up on him in that moment. Hope he forgives me next week. You can find the show notes at happyhour.fm/104. Really, you need to go check out that video of the Indiana Bell thing moving. It's amazing. And you can help support us at patreon.com/happyhour. We would love for you to come and buy us around there and be good. We'll see you next week.